Hey guys, welcome to my new review. I saw the movie Detroit tonight, and holy fuck, that was a really emotional movie for me. I was deeply disturbed, and on the other hand, very angry at the same time. Is it a perfect movie? No. There are some problems, which I'll get to. But I think still this is a movie that everyone need to watch at least once. The story of the film is more focused on the Algier Hotel motel incidents during the 4-day Detroit riot. If you want to know how the Detroit riot started, it started off. There was a huge, long history of racial segregation, and then the black people was really being pushed by the police, right, run by white men, and they were abused extremely badly, and their civil rights constantly violated. And so they were not allowed to drink in normal bars, and they started their own bar called the Black Pig. And then there was a police raid on this bar, and then it started out the riot. So that's the backstory of it. But unfortunately, in the film, it wasn't talked a lot. It wasn't talked a lot because the main focus was on the Algerian motel incidents, which generated so much controversy that the people who were wronged never got justice, even till this day. So this is getting to the point. Getting to my one of my biggest con of the movie. The opening was a little bit too long. It started off with an animation about the history of Detroit, which kind of caught me off guard because it felt like something you would see on a PSA video. So it doesn't match with the tone of the rest of the movie, and it felt very very out of place. And then after that, the first 20 minutes of this movie was focusing on the events of the riots that got nothing to do with the motel incidents. Well, it has something to do. It's the back. It's part of the reason why this incident happened. But in terms of storytelling perspective, this doesn't help much. It's just background story that they felt in 20 minutes. And there is a lot of random stock footage interacted with the incidents that was filmed in the movie. So it felt kind of out of place, and the stock footage, they try to give you an extra punch, but it just doesn't work for me, at least in this 20 minutes. After that, the film gets really 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 good. The acting was superb. This is one of the main reason why I like this film. There was a lot of British actor, John Boyega, Will Poulter, even Hannah Murphy from Game of Thrones fame was in this movie. None of them has a fake a Southern American accent that normally British people would use to pretend they have an American accent. One of the more recent cases that happened was Lily James in Baby Driver, but everyone gave in their all. And then from interviews I learned, Catherine Bigelow allowed her actors to improvise many times, and the results really really shows. Everyone's acting was perfect. I cannot pick one that just stand out more than the other. The police in this film was fucking racist, and they were really brutal. They not only did they violate the civil rights of the people in there, not only did they not only and they also but they also started abuse they also abused them in the most horrifying way as you can imagine. And the way the police acted, and the way the police acted doesn't feel like your normal kind of like bad guy, like over the top villain. They feel human being, and that's make them even more terrifying. It felt like they feel like the police that you can see on the street. Something it felt like something that can happen to you and me. And that is and to me that is the main reason why I felt really scared throughout the entire movie. In fact, a friend of mine told me that this film felt like a horror movie, which I absolutely agree. The police almost become, in a sense, become a slasher villain, and it was not helped by the system, by the environment it was in. People were okay with it. In the opening scene, one of the police shot a looter who poses no threat to them, and the police chief was like, "Why did you murder him?" And he said, "Like, I wasn't murdering him. I think he might be running for a weapon or something." And then the chief said, like, "But he wasn't. He was just stealing some food." And then the other cop was like, "Look, we had to make an example of him. We have to tell people that looting is not right." And then at the end, the chief just put it as a the guy as a murderer, and just let him off the hook. And that's just and that's one of the theme. Like, people know what they're. Some of the people surround them know what the police doing was wrong, but people just turn on blind eye on them, which just makes the case even worse. And then especially towards the end, like I said, I'm not gonna spoil what happened in the motel incidents, because if I do that, I would spoil the movie for you. But towards the end, like, things got into such a height. Just the in the thing, it's just got way too disturbing. There's not a lot of music, and the sound design was really, really good. It's nothing special, but it's something we don't see in movies that often. We hear the background sound, like whenever people are having conversation. On the one hand, we hear the music coming from the other room. On the other hand, we still hear the rioting, the shouting from the outside. It feels like as if we are in the environment, and with the acting, I was really, really invested in this movie. The camera work is very handheld, and it's provide a brutal realism. It's not shaky cam, because nowadays with Paul Greengrass shaky cam, it's get me very, very nauseated. The other really downside of the movie, it's not influence, it's not that big of a deal for me, was sometimes they have way too many backstory, which is the exact opposite problem of Dunkirk, which has no backstory, and I don't feel very invested in any of the characters. Here, they do have a really compelling, rather compelling story. One of the main character, he was in the band. He was performing concert in Detroit, but his concert got canceled, so he got stuck in the motel. He had absolutely nothing to do with the incident. He was just complete bystander, but he was screwed up so bad that it's influenced the rest of his life. And I really felt bad for him. And the actor's name was L.G. Smith. And it is, to my knowledge, it was the first role he acted. But the way he portrayed him was so good that I really felt bad for him. And at the end of the movie, I was really, really mad at the results he was getting, and it was disturbed by how ignorant people were in that movie. However, I do feel like the backstory kind of went on to a little bit way too long, and and I felt like it could have been shorter. Like, at least in my book, I can trim it 5 minutes. And something else, like I said in the beginning of the movie, I also think the opening could be trimmed down a little bit. The opening has how the riot start. It was a really good sequence. Like there was a lot of good tension in there. I felt like it was good to put it in the movie because at least we have a backstory of how the whole madness got started. And also the opening sequence showed kind of showed like sometimes when people face brutality, they got very angry, but it just come in more brutality, and the cycle continues. It was a good sequence, but I don't feel like this sequence has a big significance in the storytelling of the movie as a whole. So basically, the way I see it is I can see it putting it in the pre-credits, you know, when they say directed by and they list all the actors' name, and then was the title screen Detroit. I think it should be put over there and that will be really effective. That will put us in the mood of how chaotic the situation really is. And then after that, they can just, instead of showing 20 minutes of what happened within the next 3 days, by using a ton of stock footages, they could just have one fade in black and then have a title saying day 3, how many people got injured, how many people got killed. I feel like that would be very effective. Nevertheless, I think this movie is a must watch. We should go out support it because this movie is released in July. It could easily be an Oscar bait movie, but it chose not to be because they release it. They have a limited release on July 26th, which is when the events of the Elgin Motel incident happens. They try to honor those who were wronged and those who had died without having the right justice to them. So this movie is made with a lot of efforts. They interviewed a lot of the victims. They respected the truth. And I think this deserves our attention and our support. This is a 8 out of 10 movie for me. It's not the perfect movie, and certainly not the best movie of the year. However, I do think we should support it and see it at least once. Thank you so much for following my channel, and please click subscribe or like if you like my video. The next one I'll be continuing on my quote-unquote unpopular opinion series with Men of Steel. Please leave a comments below. Let me know what you think. To me, Detroit is a very effective movie, and it's a movie that I think we should encourage a dialogue between the police and the ethnical minority group, and the victims of this incident deserves justice. They deserve much better than what they are having right now. Thank you so much, and as always, if you think I'm good, you're pretty good too.